Hello everyone, welcome to Redmen Radio, the Liverpool Podcast. I am Paul Machin, I'm joined by Chris Pajak this week, as we do most weeks. Kick-off question this week comes from Jamie Cubis via our Facebook group. With Markovic sticking around like a poo that doesn't flush, what job would you give him anywhere in the club away from the pitch? I mean, he's not registered to play. We'll pick up on this a little bit in the news. But yeah, Markovic is going to be a Liverpool player at least till January, Chris. What are we going to do to keep him occupied?
I feel quite strongly that nothing.
At all?
No, because I don't want to put anyone else out of a job
that's
actually decent at it.
Okay.
So I can't imagine he's good at much. So I feel quite strongly that no way. Because I was thinking, you can make him a tea lady, but what about the poor tea lady that's getting sacked?
Oh, no, not necessarily. He could be there to help. He could make him there to make the tea lady's life easier. I'm not sure he would. I think he would probably make her life more difficult, which is mad.
Which is exactly what I'm thinking. Stay at home.
Stay out of
the way.
Okay.
Leave everyone be.
I'm so indifferent to Lazar Markovic at this point. I had such high hopes for the lad, and now I have none. I don't think it could go beyond. I don't think it'd be unfair on him to make him sweat for a living. Look, we're probably paying him 50 grand a week. I'd want to be in. I'd want to get something back out of that. I don't know. I'm not quite sure where he's at. Because he must be a bellend. I can only hypothesize that he must be a massive bellend. Where would that be? Where could you put that to good use? Maybe it's like
steward at Old Trafford.
Yeah, but like how you use people like you have a recovering drug addicts go to schools and tell people like don't do drugs and stuff. And I'm not sure he's totally repentant in his life just yet. But I would be holding up as an example to professional footballers how not to conduct yourself. Yeah, just get him clean in the toilets, why not? At least there'd be a nice synergy between the poo that won't flush and Lazar Markovic. Because maybe he might learn that, some poos need to be flushed. You can't leave a poo just floating around in the toilet.
No, you really can't.
Lazar. Just get out of the club, mate. Let's talk about what we're going to do this week then. We're going to go through the news and brief. We're going to answer a few of your questions. Obviously, Jordan Henderson being at the centre of a lot of this. We're going to look back at Leicester 1, Liverpool 2. And we're going to talk, after a little bit of a plug for something else Boss we're doing, about the top four, the fact that Liverpool are top of the league and some of our rivals, then taking your questions as well. So some brilliant stuff lined up. News in brief then. Chris, the Champions League fixtures came out. You did a great reaction show to it and a live show, of course. It is undoubtedly a twat of a month.
But it's busy. It's busy and it's full of fixtures that you want. And to be honest with you, I think we'll find out at the end of this run of fixtures, after we've played Manchester City, sort of 7th of October time, how good this Liverpool side is. So it's a run of fixtures that, although on paper you go, oh my days, as a fan, I'm relishing this to find out exactly how good this Liverpool side is.
Yeah, I had this. So I talked about this on Social Club this week on Ball Street, and I said, I'm kind of like, that's a terrible run of fixtures in terms of, because you could have, because at the minute
they're all pretty terrible, to be fair.
Yeah,
some of them are against teams that you really want to beat, and some against teams that you don't care about.
Yeah. I mean, the point is that it's that run, particularly where it's Chelsea, Napoli, City, is not a particularly great run of kind fixtures, as it were. And you could have got we could have got a League Two team in the League Cup, and all of a sudden that run's a little bit easier. We could have had to play Red Star in the middle of the Chelsea and City games, and that would have made it slightly better, or slightly easier, I should say. But it was a tough run of fixtures anyway. Throwing our two hardest opponents in the Champions League group, I think in between, that doesn't make it easier. And of course the Chelsea thing in the League Cup, because we're presented with a similar situation to we were last year, is that you'd love to be able to put the kids out, but there's going to be a bit of brinksmanship here, I think, where are Chelsea going to put the kids out? Possibly, because if Chelsea do, there's no problem, is there? That's a game where you can maybe look to say, okay, well, that's a nice chance to get a bit of rest and rotation in.
I think going out to the League Cup helped us last season. to be honest, and I've got no problem playing the kids if Chelsea play their first team. I think if Liverpool want to play the kids, and that's kind of it for me, because it's that January time when you're coming out of Christmas where you start getting 2 games in the semi-final and stuff like that. It's something that you don't always need and you don't always want. Last season, certainly if you're getting out of the Champions League groups, you kind of don't want that, because you sort of want your team to be building back up to that February coming back in the Champions League. So I'd be looking at that Chelsea Carabao Cup game as a bit of a gimme.
Yeah.
If we win it, sound. If we don't, we put the kids out and we didn't win.
Yeah.
Sound.
Yeah.
It's not a priority for us. The priorities are the Champions League and the Premier League.
Yeah, it's interesting with it being Chelsea, of course, because I think they've got PAOK, Salonika in the lead up. They're in the Europa League. They've got a group of no marks. It's telling that good teams in the Europa League tend to have a go at the League Cup as well, because it can help you along the way. Kind of like Man United did it on the way to win it. We got to the final as well in doing it. So I do wonder whether Chelsea will take that slightly more seriously. But and to be fair, I think we talk about our squad. It's probably not the kids as we recognise it. It's probably not the kids like Rafa played the kids.
No, it's not.
Back in 04-05, it's probably Daniel Sturridge and Xherdan Shaqiri starting.
Adam Lallana.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's absolutely fine, because you need to get some minutes in their legs. I think there was a time, the only time I regretted going out to the League Cup last season was not seeing any more of Danny Ward. Yeah. And I don't think we have anyone in the squad there that I'm particularly we really need to see him this season.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's probably a season early for Curtis Jones, but I wouldn't mind, it could be. The thing about him, we talk about sliding doors all the time on the channel. You could be a difference between Curtis Jones being a useful player this season and having to wait a year to find out whether he's a useful player or not. And if you lose if you can get a steal a march on your development, that can be a positive thing sometimes. So no, there's definitely that. But yeah, it's an interesting. So yeah, obviously people will have looked at it, but regardless, it's Saturday. We play Spurs on Saturday the 15th. PSG Tuesday the 18th, Southampton Saturday the 22nd, Tuesday the 25th is Chelsea, Saturday the 29th is Chelsea again, Wednesday the 3rd Napoli, and Sunday the 7th is City. So yeah, make or break time for Liverpool, which is mad to say, when you talk about September, October, but as you said there, if you can come out of that spell relatively unscathed, I don't expect Liverpool to go unbeaten in that spell, but if you come out of it relatively unscathed, then you will have established, I think, Liverpool's credentials for the rest of the
Absolutely.
season.
Absolutely, and listen, I think it's been kind to us in a way, in that, there's only one really distant away game, and that's Napoli, and that could have been Belgrade.
Yeah.
And that could have been much worse for us. And also, when you look at the Champions League group as a whole, I know these fixtures aren't in this one, but double Belgrade gives you a real steal on the sort of middle section of your Champions League group, and I think that's one where we'll be eyeing up 6 points in. So yes, it's difficult on paper. Of course it is. We've got PSG, but it's at home, importantly. Yeah. So we're in an away game at Spurs at Saturday 12:30. So that's even been a little bit kind to us. It could have been the Sunday game.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's the first game of the weekend. And then we've got a home game against PSG. And then you get into the Southampton game, the 2 Chelsea games and all that type of stuff. Yeah. The League Chelsea game is massively more important than the League Cup one for me. So I look at that and I think to myself, you know what, at the end of this run, we could be talking about Liverpool as, potential league champions, and we could really mean it at the end of that run, because that's the hardest run of fixtures we're going to get this season.
Oh,
and if you can come out of that top of the league, taking points off the others around you, then you're in a really great position, and it's not even Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also kind of fortunate that the City game's the Anfield game, isn't it, in that regard, to end it, where obviously you'd be a major struggle to do Napoli away, City away. But yeah, or rather Chelsea away, Napoli away, City away, which would have been absolutely horrendous. So yeah, great. As mentioned before, Lazar Markovic didn't sign for Anderlecht before deadline day. He's gone on Twitter, I think it was, to deny that money was the issue. I've subsequently seen people saying no money was the issue. Liverpool kind of intimated as much, Anderlecht intimated as much. I mean, look, Lazar Markovic is never going to get a better contract, probably, than the one he's on at Liverpool. I'm amazed that he's still got any time left on his contract, given how long it feels he's been here. It goes back to the original question, doesn't it, Chris? He just won't go away. And part of me has a weird, perverse respect for that, because it's like, you look at him and go, well, you're clearly crap at footy, aren't you, mate? And you're clearly not going to get anything better in your life. You're just clinging on for dear life while you still can.
I don't know. It tells me a lot of why he's not made it as a professional footballer, to be honest. The fact that he doesn't want to go out there and prove himself and try and become re-erect his career or whatever. And you're thinking to yourself, surely if this is what you want to do and you enjoy football, then go and do it. Go and play football. But it says to me like he's almost taking the money and running. Yeah. And he's going to end up a property investor or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
dead in a ditch by 30.
I just don't get it. It's an opportunity that we would absolutely do anything to just have the ability that even he's got. Yeah. And with the ability that he's got, I'd be playing football regularly every single week, and I wouldn't be worried about 20 grand a week less or 30 grand a week less or whatever it is, because me 10 grand a week will be sound. But ultimately, it's about playing footy every single week. Yeah. And he just seems to be pissing it up the wall. Yeah.
And we also saw no deals for Origi or Solanke as well before the window shut, although we know Ojo went out on loan to Reim, which is exactly what we're talking about, though. Ojo's gone to play in Ligue 1 because he fancies the challenge, he fancies the test, thinks he can make something of himself over there. And again, you got Markovic sitting around. But the Origi stuff's odd, isn't it? Because I don't think we envisaged having Origi and Solanke both at the football club in this season, but it doesn't make it. We've not seen hide nor hair of either of them so far this season. I genuinely hope with this stuff, because Klopp's referenced and we mentioned it last week on the podcast that Mignolet's been a bit of a bell end, hasn't he, by coming out and talking about his position at the club and what have you. You hope it doesn't upset the apple cart, and I also hope we don't need to use those lads. But I actually weirdly feel more relaxed for knowing that we've got so much depth now up front. Maybe it doesn't perfectly suit what we do, but I know if we had the worst injury crisis, you can manufacture something out of the pieces that we've got there.
Absolutely. And listen, I don't think Liverpool particularly wanted Origi to stay around, but I don't think they're particularly sad that he is.
If they didn't want him to stay around, they'd have lowered his
exactly, and that's what it's all about. And you've got to remember sometimes, I think, as a business and as a football club that they are, that perception is quite a lot, is everything almost, especially when you're selling players. Liverpool have been really strong at protecting value for a few years now. If you then drop it on deadline day by 10 million quid and get him gone, that actually harms other deals. Yeah. So you might get 15 million or 17 million, 10 million lower than his 27 or whatever that Liverpool wanted this summer. But what happens next summer? Do you lose 20 million on a Coutinho going out? Or do you lose 30 million on a Suarez going out because people know that you're going to drop your pants when it comes to deadline day?
Yeah, no, it's true. Absolutely true. I completely agree on that. And it's part of a wider thing. But it's interesting. It tells you what we think, because like the fact that we were prepared to let Markovic go for like 2 million quid, because clearly no one wants him and we didn't want him. Whereas Origi, you just get the feeling is that, okay, fine, we can do far worse than have Divock Origi hanging around.
Look at what Danny Ings is doing so far this season. Yeah. We had a conversation a few weeks ago, and I think I'd said that I could really envision him getting 15 to 20 goals if he's given a run of games. I feel very strongly that Divock Origi is exactly the same person. I think the fee that we got for Ings probably wasn't as high because of his injury history and stuff. I think Divock Origi doesn't have that hanging over him. Someone will buy Divock Origi at some point, and he will score goals for them. Therefore, Liverpool will be proved right that his value should have been high.
What do you think, just on that? I mean, I guess we're in a position now with Danny Ings is that you could command that fee next summer. You know what I mean? You might get a surprisingly good fee for him because, well, if he's going to score 1 and 2 for Southampton this season, he's going to be a 20 million plus centre forward come the end of the season anyway.
Absolutely, as long as there are no injury history this season, there's no injuries this season, people will look at it and go, absolutely, but it was Southampton that took the risk because there isn't a full year of him playing football and scoring goals to look back on. And to be fair, years of injuries.
You've got Charlie Austin, and if you talk about taking a risk on someone's injury issues because they score goals, then Danny Ings must look like some sort of he must look like he's got Wolverine's healing factor by comparison to Charlie Austin, who's just literally stuck together with sticky tape and chewing gum at this point.
Much like us, to be fair.
To be fair. Or I would be if I had sticky tape and chewing gum as it is, just in bit. Klopp won't rotate his goalkeepers in the Champions League. We talked about this. I think it was slightly more likely if Karius had hung around. Now that it's Mignolet, there was no chance that was ever going to happen at all, and fair play. Jordan Henderson, Chris, the big news this week, he signed a 5-year contract or or a long-term contract extension, as they described.
Twitter shares in the Northwest went up as the tweets went up considerably
Yeah.
when that was announced. I am so baffled by this split of opinion between Liverpool fans.
It's referenced. Carl Evans asked us the question. He's in our subscriber Facebook group. He says, why does Hendo split opinions between supporters? I agree, because I know, I do understand it. I'm not blind to it, but it baffles me because I don't share people's distrust of Jordan Henderson.
I don't get it a lot. You know, there was a lot of players during the game against Leicester that didn't play very well. Mm-hmm. Jordan Henderson was one of them. There were plenty of games last season where he played extremely well.
Yeah, including the World
Cup. So I look at it and think, I know exactly what he brings to this side. I know exactly what he offers. The midfield didn't work at the weekend for me. I didn't like Gini Wijnaldum in the 8. I think Gini's been brilliant in the 6. Mm-hmm. I didn't particularly enjoy Henderson's performance in the 6. I didn't think James Milner was as good with those two as he was with Wijnaldum and Naby Keita. Yeah. Sometimes that happens in football games. Yeah. And the timing of him getting a new contract couldn't have been worse for his detractors. Yeah. Like, just after a really poor performance, in one where Liverpool did not get a grip of the game at all. You know, we averaged something like 200 less passes than in the previous 3 games of the season so far. You know, like down in the 400s, where it's been over 600, 700 passes for the other 3 games. And that was in part down to Jordan Henderson. But I looked at it on the Stats and Tactics show this week, Paul, and I tallied up all the midfielders' passes and worked out as a percentage to see if this midfield in the Leicester game was just like a lower percentage of passes. Mm-hmm. It was exactly the same. Yeah. In fact, it was the second highest as a percentage of passes compared to the rest of the team. So that says to me, it wasn't just the midfield that played poorly in a passing sense. It was the entire team. It was a little bit disjointed. And Leicester played really well.
Well, I was going to say, and to be fair, Leicester are the best team that we've come up against so far, and were far more equipped, I think, to look to stop Liverpool doing what they were doing. They were far better set up.
Claude Puel's sides have consistently given us issues. Yeah. You know, you think back a couple of years when he was Southampton manager, and we had Klopp's record against him was 2 draws, 2 losses. Yeah. And then it's only since he's moved to Leicester that we've actually scraped the 2-2-1 victories over him. So it's now 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses against Claude Puel. And what he does is he crunches that midfield and he makes them really tight. And when they get the ball, they then go really wide. Mm-hmm. And it's quite a difficult thing for Liverpool to sort of break down that Leicester side. It's actually a really good blueprint to play against us. Nobody's talking about that. They're talking about Jordan Henderson. I'd be looking at Gini Wijnaldum exactly the same. Yeah. You know, 24 passes on the day. Yeah. That's about 15-20 less than Jordan Henderson from that 8 position. Really sort of non-existent. Yeah. That's the type of game where we needed your Phil Coutinho in the midfield. You need your Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain or Fekir if we were to sign him. That would have been absolutely perfect for it, because when we beat them 2-1, the midfield was Coutinho in that midfield role, and he played a really good game against Leicester last season in December. And that's where the struggles were for Liverpool. Not down to just Jordan Henderson. And just moreover, you can tell that the squad love playing with him. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you can and this is a bit of a rant actually. Whoever's making these videos of him doing bad stuff, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. You know what I mean? Are you a Liverpool supporter?
Probably not.
Well, you can't be. No. You're making these videos, and I saw one on Twitter, and I looked at it and I thought, well, that's not his fault, that's not his fault. That's actually Jordan Henderson's fault. But just taking the time out of your day to bash someone like that is a proper bad knobhead thing to do.
Yeah, it's mad. I've never known an agenda against a Liverpool player quite like that, particularly one who's good. You know, there's plenty of players who are flattered to deceive, and there's plenty of players who we've seen the best in for the sake of seeing the best. And let's use Igor Biscan as an example of that. I wanted Igor Biscan to be successful at Liverpool because I quite like the idea of him, and you know, Rafa brought him in, and he had that, like, I don't know, he had the quality, or whether I don't know that Rafa brought him in. Maybe it was who they brought in. Regardless, there's players that I've liked just because I've kind of liked them. The Jordan Henderson stuff is genuinely baffling, particularly given how well he performed last season. I thought we were finally over, and I thought with the World Cup, I thought that was it. I thought he's actually shown on a world stage now that he's more than capable of handling himself, and he's a positive. I think it boils down to, because I saw someone tweeting about it saying, Jurgen Klopp's giving him this contract, so we must rate him, and someone said, to be fair, though, he also gave a new contract to Lovren and Lallana, and I was like, yeah, exactly, they're both good players. No one's ever going to sit anywhere and say Jordan Henderson's a world-class player. He's not. But he's international class, and he's good enough to play in the Premier League, and he's good enough to play. That midfield three we played against Leicester basically got us to a Champions League final. You know, they did the hard yards last season. People don't like him, I think, because he's English. And I think there's a lot of, and because he's just English, and people might go, well, people like Milner. If James Milner
if he was dual nationality, we would like him more.
I just think if he was Czech, I think people would like him more. Or if I think he was French, people would like him more. Any other nationality, if he was Scottish, people would love him, absolutely adore him, because people adore Andy Robertson. And Andy Robertson, I think Andy Robertson is tremendous, but he's not as good as Marcello, and say that, yeah, people are happy.
You're having a laugh.
Yeah, no,
10 times better, lads.
But people are not gonna. You get my point. You know what I mean? The
and
Jordan
he's not
Henderson.
as good as Marcello.
Well, yeah, exactly. The Jordan Henderson thing is just
better defensively.
Is absolutely crazy. And Lallana's another example of that. But like I say, the Milner thing. If James Milner put 2 poor performances in back to back, I guarantee people are turn on James Milner, because they just do.
Because he's 32.
Well, whatever. He's just English, and he's not amazing. He doesn't score screamers from 40 yards, etc., etc. We just have this weird thing, and I don't know whether, because you remember that agenda for ages about why do we keep buying British and English players, because they're not good enough. You used to hear that and see that in comments all over the place, all over the YouTube videos, and I just think there's a little bit of that hiding underneath stuff, to be perfectly honest. Following on a little bit from this, then Kelvin Nunku says, do you think Klopp views Henderson as more of a first-team starter, or just protecting his value with this new contract? Go on, your take on it first.
I think he's a first-team starter, and I think first-team starters probably changed a little bit over Klopp's tenure. I think, you know, Klopp doesn't have a 1 to 11. Klopp has a 1 to 16, let's say, or a 1 to 15. Pick a number, whatever, and he's always going to be one of those midfielders that's in line for a start. And it might be horses for courses, it might be based on form of player, but he's always going to be in and around that first team. I do feel the length of the contract kind of surprised me a little bit, in that he'll be 32, 33 come the end of it. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think maybe the length of the contract protects his value. Yeah. I don't think we'll see him here until he's 33 years old. Yeah. I do think there will be better players that come along, and Klopp will just naturally go, okay, well, he's a better fit, see you later.
Well, that's the point, is that we might have already seen the first glimpses of it in the first 3 games of the season, that our midfield might evolve past Jordan Henderson, or Fabinho might come in having done, you know, a few months of learning, and he might be able to do everything that Jordan Henderson does, but he's just more watertight defensively as well, and that might give us a more stable platform, and Jordan Henderson might naturally find himself pushed out, but there's no evidence to suggest that's the case either. All the evidence actually pushes towards the fact that Jordan Henderson will continue to be good and will continue to be a first team starter, because Klopp thinks he's good enough to do the job. You know, I don't think Jurgen Klopp's a particularly sentimental guy in this regard. If he wasn't good enough, I think he'd have happily moved him on. He doesn't care about the captain's armband. He's made that clear. How many times he's given it to players just to give it to them, because he's aware that it kind of can have an impact on some people. So yeah, I think it's both. I think you don't want to end up in a situation where Jordan Henderson's leaving Liverpool for free. Yeah. You know, and he has put in a great year's performance, I think, over the past 12 months. He got back to the level that he hasn't had for a couple of years because of injuries. It's just a logical step to give him. Everyone in that who performed last year, who's got less than a certain number of years, 2 years or less on the contract, will probably be getting contract extensions.
Football changes really, really quickly, doesn't it? I think we all know that as fans of football, and you know, you don't know what's going to happen in 2 years' time. But what you can put your money on is that people's values are going to go down, and they're going to go cheaper towards the end of their contract. So it makes good business sense to tie players up. But look at like the players that we've got on 5-year contracts now. You know, Salah, Firmino, Van Dijk, Andy Robertson, Jordan Henderson, Fabinho, Keita. I mean, this is a team that are focused on what they want, and it all helps. Yeah. You don't want to have to be going in every couple of years. All right, okay, blah 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 blah. They've tied them all down now. It might cost them a little bit of money now. It might save them a little bit of money in 2 years when they've got 2 league titles under the belt.
Well, exactly that. You tie people down. This is what successful football clubs look like. They give improved deals to the players who are in the prime of their career, and they keep them tied down because it stops them having their heads turned. It keeps them happy. It just means it's one less thing to worry about. But also they'll
all be on there or thereabouts wages wise. Now, if you're coming into the club and let's say Liverpool have another strong run in the Champions League and finish second in the Premier League or first in the Premier League, whatever, you're buying into it. You're not getting a Ibrahimovic or a Sanchez who wants £300,000-400,000 a week. You're buying into the team, and the team's all on pretty much the same amount of money. Yeah. And what they'll do for you is get you to a place where you can potentially win trophies, and that's actually good business sense as well.
And also, let's not I partially disagree with the thing that he won't be at 32, 33 as well. You know, maybe, you know, there could be a situation where he does a Gareth Barry and he goes and maybe plays at a few other clubs or whatever. But again, particularly given, and people don't consider this enough, but particularly considering Brexit and all the stuff around that, tie down all your homegrown lads for as much as you can and wait till things sort themselves out in the future, because you're going to need more and more English and British lads, and why would you not keep lads who know the football club inside and out as well? Jordan Henderson could well be one of those lads, because again, look at James Milner. If Jordan Henderson is prepared to stay at Liverpool, if he's that kind of guy who'll come in and fight for his place and he maintains the level of quality that he's had when he's been fully fit at Liverpool, I don't see him falling off a cliff. His passing range isn't going to get worse. It's going to get better because he's going to play more football games. Yes, he'll lose a bit of pace, but I think he's actually already started to mould his game around that anyway, because I don't think he's quite got the same as he was 3 or 4 years ago. And he's just one of those lads that, as long as he's happy, and he's never going to move to a bigger club than Liverpool anyway, you have a squad. You need to have these players in your thing. So Liverpool could we could be talking about 5 years from now, and Jordan Henderson's just still
the new Milner, maybe.
Well, exactly. You know, so I think it's a very intelligent decision. We kind of already dipped into it. We'll pick around some of the stuff of the Leicester game. Probably the poorest performance of the season so far, and yet it probably had a spell of football that in the first 15 minutes that was probably the best spell of footy almost we've had of the game as well.
I agree with that actually, and you know, I think from an attacking sense, it was a particularly poor effort from Liverpool after the 20th minute of the game. From a defensive sense, no, not the poorest at all. I think, you know, we actually, and we did this on the Stats and Tactics again, it was a point that Dan Kennett raised in the final word straight on Saturday after the game, was that after they scored, we didn't look like conceding. And it felt completely different to me in the stands. I was nervous. You know, we were all nervous.
I was watching it on my phone in a burger van queue at Friends Fest, and I did fist pump when Joe Gomez put that block tackle in, but that was probably the hairiest moment of the game, apart from ones that we created ourselves.
Yeah, I think after they'd scored, the only shot they had on target was one from Ndidi from 35 yards that was blocked by James Milner 2 yards in front. That was the only opportunity we conceded, and for all the possession that Leicester had, and they had more possession than us in the game, they only entered that area like 7 times during the game.
Yeah.
And we kept them to shots from range. You know, 75% of their shots on the day were from outside the penalty area. Liverpool had, I think it was 65% or 70% inside their area. So for how poor we were, we still created opportunities. You know, you think back to the 3rd minute of the game and Roberto Firmino misses that chance. It's a good save by Kasper Schmeichel. Mo Salah then misses one wide. They were the 2 best opportunities that we had. But even late on in the game, there's a free kick from James Milner in the corner, the sort of corner flag range. Sadio Mane could have put it 3-1. Yeah. You know, it wasn't an outstanding performance, but without playing well, we beat one of the better sides in the league and a really tough ground to go to.
Yeah, and I've seen people again, there's that notion of like, these are the games that Liverpool lost before. People go, no, Liverpool beat Leicester last season. No, not the opponents. You don't get, you know what I mean? It's the type of games by that is Liverpool not playing well, the other team looking to nullify what Liverpool do. And normally when a team sets out to nullify what Liverpool does, and I don't necessarily mean, and again, I know Liverpool performed really well against the bottom 14 sides of the league last season. Historically though, not the case. These are the games where when you try to stop Liverpool doing, you more often than not succeed, at least in frustration. Maybe Liverpool dropped 2 points. And I'd said that last week when we were looking at our run of fixtures and where we get the points, I think I caveated it at the end by saying it wouldn't shock me to see us. I had us to draw with Chelsea away, but I had us to beat Leicester. But I said it wouldn't shock me if we drew at Leicester and then went and beat Chelsea, because that's I've seen that happen a lot, and that very easily could have been that game.
You're exactly right to look back over the last 10 years or more and look at those type of fixtures. But think back to last season, the season before, when Liverpool make a grave error in a game, and it was a grave error by Alisson, and maybe a couple of others before it even gets to him. Generally, we'll go and get a draw there. Even think back to, was it Sevilla? 3-3, you know what I mean?
Just collapsed.
Just absolutely collapsed. And, I think back to that Bournemouth game where I think they beat us 4-3. We were a couple of goals up in that game. And the Liverpool side, even under Jurgen Klopp, has dropped points from winning positions. Yeah. The difference is we didn't actually look like dropping points from the winning position, even with the 1-goal advantage. Yeah. In fact, we were a little unlucky not to get away with 3-1.
The funniest thing is we're doing this, dissection of a performance, and I've seen everyone doing it. If Alisson just fucking kicks the ball down the pitch like he's meant to, because you see Klopp's reaction straight afterwards, he shouts him, he just does the hand gesture, just whip it down the flank, mate. Just boot it 60 yards down the pitch if you have to. There is no, I mean, it was analysed, and maybe Gomez can give him a better passing angle or whatever, doesn't matter. It's a moment of stupidity from the goalkeeper, and if he does anything other than Cruyff it, or even if he Cruyffs it correctly and doesn't just get the ball lost, it's not a problem. We probably walk out of that game 2-0 and everyone goes, what?
That was easy considering we didn't play well.
Absolutely. And that's why, again, there's this need for critical dissection. I don't mean because you're doing the brilliant stuff on stats and tactics, and I think you look a lot more into the positives of the stuff that Liverpool are doing of late. But again,
don't sugarcoat it though.
Well, no, exactly. That's what I mean. This is again not happy clappy. Oh, we all brilliant while the fucking house is on fire behind you. Because it's not. It just isn't that. Anyway, this need to this inherent minge baggery that exists from people, I think, online, who have literally just crawled away into the little caves for 6 months, 8 months. Now they just crop up, and they always seem to crop up just before international breaks. It's honestly, it makes me think the Russian bots, and they're literally just set set up on an if this then that or whatever to just come up at specific times of the year when we're at our most susceptible to absolute nonsense on social media. So yeah,
if Liverpool lose, hashtag Henderson. Yeah. I can see that.
But what I've liked is that yes, people are rightly going, oh my God, look at the state of Alisson there. Much like in a similar regard to us losing the Champions League final, is that I think the vast majority of people looked at it and went, yeah, that was a bit stupid. Oh, well, never mind. Including him, by the way. And it's what you're talking about in that confidence. He made that mistake and he just went, all right, yeah, that was stupid, wasn't it? I won't do that again. And then just carried on. I mean, and he will. By the way, he will get caught in possession again. But it was Reina-esque for me, the way that he just forgot about it. Made a mistake, went, oh well, never mind.
I was more angry with him punching the post. I don't think that's a good thing for a goalkeeper.
Don't punch metal up. Yeah.
Exactly. And I was just thinking, do not do that, Alisson. What are you doing?
Yeah, I get it. Annoyed, or punch the turf, or pound your chest, or
don't punch the metal post. That's silly.
Or ruffle your beard
aggressively. I'd do it, but no beard.
Ruffle your imaginary beard. What would you do? Yeah, definitely that. One thing I liked of the game, because I watched it live in kind of spells, and again I was stood in a queue watching it on my phone for the most part. But I loved Shaqiri's top-notch shithousery when he came off the bench. I think he would have, if things had broken slightly differently, I do believe he would have gone through and tried to shoot or try to make stuff, but he had no problem just trying stuff, going down, looking to take time out of the game. Mate, did some tracking back.
He's come from Stoke.
Yeah.
And you could tell in that 20-minute cameo that he knows you've got to shut out the game, and I am the guy to do it.
Yeah, it's just
that's what he was doing for them if they ever got a lead.
It's like that bit in Toy Story 3 where Buzz has got a Spanish mode. It's literally like they flick Stoke mode on Shaqiri and just go out there and go, we got Bayern Munich mode. No, Shaded, not Bayern Munich mode. Inter Milan mode? No, not Inter Milan mode. You want me to use Stoke mode again, don't you? Yes, please. Yes, please.
But
yeah,
he was great at it.
Go out there and shit house the game
and
for us.
It wasn't just... Listen, that was fantastic that he did that, and I absolutely enjoyed him running into the corner flag and then asking for throw-ins through his feet and then doing the GameCube thing and all that. But the tracking back that the lad did as well. You know, I saw him covering for Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back at one point, and this is the stuff that you're told that, no, he doesn't do that. You know, coming off the World Cup, he's lazy. I'm sorry. If he's not. He's genuinely not. And he had his head on a swivel the whole game, like he was pressing people, but he was looking around to see where his man was behind. Can I go? Can I not go?
I did notice that one thing where you can tell why he's not. Well, he's not being used because Mo Salah's amazing, even if he's not in. Is truly, you know, spectacular form. He doesn't know his passing lanes to cut off just yet, and there was a point there when he's up front and he's looking at where is he? Where do I need to be? And adjusting his thing, and that you can tell that he's eager to do it, but you can also see that it's not
second nature to him. And you know, this is an area of the pitch where Liverpool do rely on it quite heavily. That high press, you know, not always from your Salah and your Mane, more from your Roberto Firmino, but it is vital in cutting off one side of the pitch. Mo Salah can do that with his eyes shut. Shaqiri maybe not just yet, but it's also why Fabinho's not playing, I think, because it's a much more important area of the field to get your positioning absolutely spot on. You can make a little bit of a mistake out wide, and you know, you've got the entire team behind you. So why probably Fabinho's taking a little bit longer.
Yeah, just one last moment on the Henderson stuff. There was one moment in that game when that stood out for me, and I forget who the Leicester player. It might have been Maddison.
It was Maddison running through,
and he just ran past him, and he didn't burst into a sprint to track him down after he went past. And I thought. And that's not because Jordan Henderson's crap, but I did think this is why Jordan Henderson's not been starting games for us so far this season. He reached that, whatever it was, hour mark of the game, and he just didn't look up to speed with what we were doing.
I think if I remember the stats, he was dribbled past 3 times during the game. It was the most of any Liverpool player, which is not something you particularly want in that area of the pitch, is it? But you know, I don't know whether that one was Maddison. There was one that I was thinking of where Maddison's through on Van Dijk and Gomez, and they're both marking a fella, and Jordan Henderson steamrolls from about 7 yards past him and knocks the ball back to Alisson with a tackle, which in your analysis video saying that he's crap didn't make the cut.
Funny that, isn't it? It doesn't serve the narrative or the agenda, does it? One to forget, absolutely. And to be fair, I think that's true of the first 4 games so far this season. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
We didn't know how bad West Ham were at the time, did we?
No, we did not. Before we crack into that chat, though, Chris has done, as mentioned several times here, an absolutely phenomenal stats and tactics show, talking about how Liverpool's defence stayed rock solid.
Yeah, that's it. I think, you know, we analysed the 20 minutes after, or 20 odd minutes after Leicester scored, and you know, again, it came from the fact that Dan Kennett said to me after that, you know, he wasn't at the game, then nothing really happened, and I was like, I felt so nervous. I like to myth bust, and sometimes I myth bust myself on these because I felt really nervous. I was like, no, he's wrong there. Watched it, I was like, no, he's spot on. He's absolutely right. And we just show you how Liverpool do that and how we went into a 4-4-1-1 during the game with Wijnaldum playing right wing at a point. There was a 12-minute spell where we went 4-4-1-1, which as a Liverpool fan, you know, is a formation that frustrates the hell out of us. And we were able to do it to Leicester, then we moved back to the 4-3-3 when the subs were made and stuff.
Perfect.
Very interesting stuff.
Perfect. So have a little look / listen now.
Our average pass streak was only 5. Now, normally we're up around 7 there. So, and actually it was the same as Leicester, which I found quite interesting. And then as you can see down here on the positional report, they created well down both sides. We were slightly more favouring the left-hand side than the right-hand side in this game. Shot directions, all of them coming from the middle of the box. This has sort of been a running theme this season as well, isn't it? We're taking more and more shots from that middle sort of third, less from the wings. Shot zones, look at that, 70% of our shots inside the area, 30 outside, but look what we managed to keep Leicester to. 25% inside the 18-yard box, none inside the 6-yard box, 75% of their shots from outside the area. Again, you know, that's us making sure that people are struggling to get into that sort of optimum position to shoot from, and it's us working our way into that optimum position to shoot from, and it's very well highlighted in just that one sort of page, and you can see the attacking zones slightly more in our third than the home third.
Cool. So yeah, we are top of the league after 4 games, Chris. We over
10% of the league done now, Paul.
Smashing. We said when we went into this run of games, I think we looked at the opposition and what have you, and we said, look, 12 points is not an unrealistic target, but it's when you look at how rarely it happens that teams win the opening 4 games of the season, and, you know, not discounting the fact that we're one of 3 teams that have done that. Sound is the word. I wouldn't say Liverpool have been anywhere near their best so far, but the most important thing was...
Is bad not the word?
The bed is the word, okay, if you haven't heard. But yeah, no, like I say, I would not want to go back and revisit those games. I would not want to see a full season of Liverpool playing like that. Because I
wouldn't mind the West Ham one, if I'm honest.
I wouldn't mind a season where we win every game. So in that regard, yes. But in regards, I can't help but feel that if we don't up our level, particularly with the aforementioned, 6 weeks or so we've got looming, we'll struggle to maintain. We'll struggle to win games if we don't up our level. But as we say, we've done what we needed to do.
It's the point of the season where teams do start to up the level, though. And listen, we're in a very good position in that we've not played well on the top.
Yeah.
Whereas, I think other teams are in the same boat, but Manchester City dropped points away at Wolves. So, last season they were winning every game, weren't they? So, still a little bit of a march, although it's only 2 points on them, and while we're still not playing well, we know there's different levels to go through, is exactly where you want to be. I think if we were to look at the fixtures at the start of the season, I'd have probably predicted 12 points. But I wouldn't actually genuinely think we'd have got 12 points.
Exactly. If you'd have come out of that with 10 points,
yeah,
because you draw against Leicester, you'd have gone, okay, that's a standard Liverpool approach. Whereas, given the fine margins, we've all got into this season super nervous because of the margins that were defined by Man City's season last year, knowing that 2 points a game is like not enough to guarantee a title challenge. So in that regard, there should be massive praise for the results, if not necessarily quite how we've gone about them.
Yeah, and honestly, the results are what matters, and I think everybody knows that, don't they? The performances will come. We've got too many good players for the performances not to come. Yeah. I think sometimes we forget to credit the opposition so many times. I thought Crystal Palace played really well against us, and you could see that they were a really good side. And then they had, a poor performance last weekend, but when they had a good performance, we beat them. Yeah. And that's encouraging. Yeah. Leicester played well, and we beat them. Yeah. And they'll have good and bad performances throughout the season as well, but we haven't played well, and we've gone up against 2 tough teams that did play well, and we still managed to get the result, and that's really what it comes down to for me. Brighton, little bit of one of them, wasn't it? West Ham, we played well because they were terrible. Yeah. We will play well again, and, it's just a matter of time. Mo Salah will hit top gear. The lad's got a couple of goals and a couple of assists or whatever. What are the stats on Mo again, Tom? 2 goals, 1 assist. 2 goals, 1 assist, and by his standards, he's playing crap. Well, but he's not.
To be fair, I think it was pointed out, and we're going to talk a little bit about Salah's form. We've got a question in a minute we'll come to, but in fact, actually, go on. But let's just quickly we'll do the Salah chat now. Uma Oga says, "Do you think Salah isn't fully informed because of the stuff happening with the Egyptian FA?" I actually think it's a slight consideration. I think you can see that he's not. It's not working quite as easily for him. But equally, I think people forget he didn't score 4 goals in his first 4 games for us last season. He wasn't. You know what I mean? He wasn't. No one looked at him this time last year and went, "He's going to win the Golden Boot."
No.
It took him a little while. I mean, and I understand. It's understandable that because he's settled in and adapted, it's not beyond expectation to think he would just pick up where he's left off. But Harry Kane's only scored 2 goals.
Yeah, so Harry Kane won the Golden Boot without scoring goals in August a couple of years on the bounce. Yeah. So it's not like it's detrimental to your cause. You just got to score some more goals somewhere else down the line. And it might be a concern for him. I did ask David Anderson from the Mirror last week on the Newsroom podcast about it, because he's a very patriotic person, isn't he, Mo Salah? And I think he's I don't know quite the right word how to explain it, but I think he feels the weight of his nation sometimes on his shoulders, and he doesn't want people to think at home that he's doing this for any other reason. But I think he feels like he's been slighted by the Egyptian FA and mistreated, and that will be having some kind of effect on him mentally. Whether he carries that onto the football field, my guess would be no, not at all, because we've seen players, as soon as they cross that white line, sometimes everything else doesn't matter.
I think it's the only thing is that it's something so big that when you're flying and everything's fine, dead right. But it's that thing of when something doesn't go right for you, you're more susceptible, I think, to that kind of stuff. And look, he's an elite sportsman, so it's not the kind of thing that's going to have a terrible impact on him. But you see it like, you can chart a lot of footballers things when they have major things going on. I remember Steven Gerrard, when he was going through his court case stuff, he had some troubled times around that. Dejan Lovren, he had some family issues and whatever, didn't he? That kind of thing. So I think it will be a factor.
Think back to that goal against Brighton. That's a really difficult finish.
Yeah.
And he's got a little bit of time and a little bit of space, and he just knocks it into the bottom bin. And yes, he misses a bit of a golden opportunity for us at the weekend against Leicester. But
he missed loads of them last season.
Yeah, he did. He missed absolutely tons of them. I think the one difference between this season and last so far, he's not having any time or space.
Yeah.
And there's not one person he's got to beat. It's 2, 3 and 4 players. And there will be a period of adjustment. Mm-hmm. And once he works that out, he'll just go back to ripping Watford's defence with 6 of them again. You know, that's just the way it is. Yeah. He definitely felt at the start of last season, like, when it's on, it's on. Yeah. And he kept that level going all season, almost to a point where you're thinking, when's this going to drop off?
Yeah.
He's not hit it yet, but when he gets there, I back him to just keep it there again.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see Bobby Firmino get off the mark as well. And the Sadio Mane top goal scorer in the Premier League so far, 4 in 4. That's fine, and this is the beauty of it, is that Salah's got a 1 in 2 goal scoring record at the minute. That's fine. Sadio Mane's got a 1 in 1.
Yeah, and Firmino 1 in 4.
Sound.
So maybe the word was sound after all that.
Absolutely. So yeah, just looking a little bit around what everyone else kind of did the weekend. I think the big result in terms of us was, obviously, we mentioned this on the podcast last week, one of Watford or Spurs was going to lose their unbeaten record, and lo and behold, it was Tottenham Hotspur.
Go ahead.
Glorious.
Didn't see that one coming.
Did not see that coming at all. Watford are, I expected that to just be, Watford are fine for now, aren't they? But they'll come up against someone good. But as it turns out, and this is why I think the Leicester game needs to be given a bit more, the fact that we got the 3 points needs a bit more respect. Because Watford are another one of those good sides that are probably going to finish somewhere between 7th and 10th in the Premier League, same as Leicester. They're flying now. Okay, they're on a crest of a wave at the moment because they've had that momentum of, or whatever, winning the 3 games prior to that. But that is exactly what could have happened to us with Leicester. Spurs haven't been at their best, similar to us. They've been kind of ticking along nicely. They had that great result against Manchester United, of course. But
they're shit.
The Manchester United are shit. But yeah, that's it. But that's the thing with Spurs, is that, and that's why, again, it goes back to Chris, we deserve credit for getting the 3 points, because ultimately at this point of the season, it's not about your style of play. No. It is about putting the points on the board.
It is, and Tottenham are probably feeling the strain of not being able to rotate too many players as well. And Lucas Moura had a fantastic game against Manchester United, stretching their defence. But in a game against Watford, he wasn't able to do it in quite the same manner. They've missed Son a little bit. Yeah, I think for me, he was an incredible footballer. I loved watching him play, and he'd probably be one of my favourites to take from that team, to be honest with you. But Watford need to be given credit as well. It's a great start. There's only one time in the Premier League where a team like that has gone on and kept that going, and we know what happened with Leicester City.
Yeah.
Watford do have a little bit of a history of doing this, not 4 wins, because nobody has that, but they do start well, and then they tend to drop off when you realise that this squad isn't quite good enough and big enough.
They're something I picked up on Social Club this week was that, look at the teams around. Watford are capitalising on what we said was going to be the issue, and it's the top teams having not had access to their best players over the summer for pre-season, so they're either easing them in or they're not firing on all cylinders when they're playing them. And then on the flip of that, you've got teams the other teams that are good, who maybe spent big and are trying to integrate a load of players, or they got a new manager and trying to integrate a new style. Watford have had the guy now in charge since the end of January. They actually haven't changed anything in their starting 11. Ben Foster's the only one of the new signings who started that Spurs game, I believe. They've got continuity going for them in that regard, and a little bit of the way it's kind of fell for them, because I think they'd have played Spurs at the new stadium or Wembley or whatever it would have been, because they've now played 3 home games at their 4. So they're just capitalising nicely. They were set up to cause a team like Tottenham problems, whereas we're going to see this, I think, in the coming weeks, where we've got a big test in terms of Europe. Chelsea are going to have a similar thing, albeit different because of the Europa League. Spurs are going to have their Champions League, etc., etc., etc. We're going to see teams drop points, and
This is where you need your squad.
Yeah.
This is where you need your squad. Watford might capitalise on that from their point of view, but further down the line, Christmas time, that's when they might struggle.
And also, this is why, again, it was vital for us to get 12 from 12, because there's a good chance we will drop points along the way. You've got to build yourself off a buffer zone, and that's the good thing about Spurs. So I think Spurs will be there or thereabouts right by us this season. That 3 points won't matter too much probably in a month and a half time, but it could end up being quite telling. Jose Mourinho, I love talking about Mourinho at the moment. He's back on the charm offensive. He went to an under-23 game and sat amongst the disabled supporters. And I don't want to appear to be an ultra cynic here, because I don't like when people do nice things. It's just great that he's done nice things, and I don't want to detract from the fact that he's done it, because I know all the people who got to chat to him, great. That was a great experience for them. But this is so far out of character for Jose Mourinho that I can't bring myself to be anything other than cynical about it.
I think when you look into it, and I have, I think his room was just getting cleaned, and he got asked to leave for 2 hours from Malawi.
The mate's gone, no, Jose, you can't keep putting the do not disturb on. It smells in there really bad. You haven't changed the sheets in 3 months now, Jose. No.
He hasn't got a car, so he's had to right, well, the only place I'm leaving this for, it's got to be work.
Free travel.
Exactly, I need to get there. So can someone send me a car? Is there a football game going on? Oh, we've got the under-23s playing tonight. I didn't know that. That's not in my remit.
Great.
We'll go there.
And are they my players? Oh, they are. Wow. I didn't know there was such a thing as players under the age of 23 that you don't pay money for.
Yeah,
Great.
Jose. And so he went there and was like, okay, well, none of them are 28, but it was a nice afternoon and my room's clean, so I'm going home.
We said it last week, didn't we? He's seen the end coming, and the only chance he's got to cling on this season is to get the fans on side, and the only way he's going to do that is to be less of a bellend to the fans of Manchester United. And that, again, it's just so. Someone tweeted me and said, you're being a hypocrite because this is the kind of thing that Klopp does. It's like, yeah, but it's not an act. It's not an effort for Jurgen Klopp to do this. He genuinely loves the fans of the team, and that's why they love him so much in return. And if you can't see that, I'm sorry that people can't see that, but there is a fundamental. Jose Mourinho does not have priors of being a guy who gets in amongst the fans, apart from when he gets sent to the stands, and he periodically has to sit next to someone, and that's literally the only thing. This is great. Long may it continue. It's a real shame that because they play Watford next, it would have been nice just to see them come up against Watford now, rather than having a couple of weeks to kind of get. Well,
the players will all be gone anyway. They're the same boat as Liverpool, aren't they? Loads of our players go, and I think the managers find this one of the most difficult, because you're just getting into the swing of what you want. You're getting your ideas across, and for Jose, maybe it's not as difficult for Jose because he's just saying sit back here and don't have the ball. So the players can pick up on that fairly easily. But with Klopp and the Pochettinos and Guardiolas, I think they do struggle. Certainly some of the players come back and it's like, forget what they've been teaching you with the international teams. We're doing it this way. But yeah, I think Watford could surprise them, because not every one of Watford's players will be going away, whereas most of Manchester United's will.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, look forward to proper football return. In the meantime, we've got a couple of questions. We've got a load more coming on the subscriber exclusive Q&A on the redmentv.com, which is obviously where you can get the Stats and Tactics show, you can get the Reds News Roundup show every week, you can get the Final Word shows after every single match. We do some amazing content, and as you can see, if you're watching the video version of this, we've got a brand spanking new studio with loads of cool different setups, which you can have a closer look at again, and obviously be a supporter of everything we do by subscribing. So yeah, the first question, well, we've been through a couple of questions already, but the one we've got right now, Tyler Burrich says, each make your best 11 using current former Liverpool players, so players Liverpool have sold or loaned that are still playing.
I'm only kidding. I think I've got it right this time. I really hope I've got it right now after playing that joke. Hilarious as it was.
I realise now that I did me prep on this, and then I got bored of doing this, so I moved on. So I'm missing players from my back line at the moment. So we'll just freestyle it. Is the goalkeeper as obvious as Pepe Reina?
Danny Ward. No, Pepe Reina.
It's Pepe Reina. Who's your back four?
I haven't gone for a back four. I've gone for a back three.
Okay.
I've gone Moses, right centre half.
Fuck off.
Yeah, man.
Get out.
All right, I'll change it up.
I nearly went through the back to put him at right wing back.
Yeah, you know what? I feel like he can do that Kyle Walker role. I'll just give you the names of the players, okay? So I'm actually going to go with Skrtel, Mascherano and Sakho as my back line.
Oh. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, sound, yeah.
Yeah. Moses, Chan and Lucas is a midfield 3.
Yeah, forgot Emre Can existed. That's cool.
Sterling, Coutinho on the wings.
Forgot about Raheem Sterling, yeah.
And Suarez, and there's no room for Torres because Iago Aspas is in form.
Sad. Yeah, you've done that well better than I forgot. I was like, which recent players have we sold that could fit in with this? And I was like, oh, Suarez, and then Coutinho, and then I totally forgot about loads of others. So my team is terrible. Pereira in goal. I only managed to think of one left back, and that was Insua, who's terrible. So I would definitely have Skrtel. Who was the other centre half?
Sakho.
Skrtel and Sakho. Yeah, and I'm unsure on my right back, but I went 4-4-2 because again, I've genuinely shit this out. A midfield 4 of Victor Moses right wing, Nuri Sahin, and Javier Mascherano in midfield, and then Coutinho left wing. It's just crap. And Torres and Suarez up front. Yeah, that's terrible. Leave yours in the comments, though, if you would be so kind. Steo Kerr 13. Would you rather be cold forever or hot forever?
I think it's cold forever. I don't mind the cold. Like, you know, my family's ultimately from Poland, so I think I'm kind of just a little bit more used to that. Plus layers. I hate being hot. I can't sleep when I'm hot, and you know, there's not much you can do, but just, you know, I don't have access to a walk-in freezer anymore. Yeah. I'd have to have one in my house if I was hot forever, so I can just make myself warmer with coats.
See, I think I'm a tropical people at heart, so I'd rather be hot forever. I mean, like, mercifully it doesn't say too cold or too hot, because that's a difference. You know, you don't want to be too cold, you don't want to be uncomfortably. No, I'd rather be hot. I realise when you get that thing of, oh God, isn't it hot? Isn't it hot? When we have a bit of nice weather for a week, and then you realise that, like, it's just horrible and miserable for the other 10 months out of the year when it's cold. So no, I could live with never having to wear a coat again. That'll be absolutely fine by me. We've got loads more questions coming up on the subscriber exclusive Q&A, including what kit manufacturer we'd like to see Liverpool go with should the New Balance deal not be renewed. How much of a head start would you need to beat Mo Salah in a 100-metre dash? Our best five-a-side team of goalkeepers that have played for Liverpool based off their attributes. Yeah, cool. I've not done that, but I'll freestyle that definitely. If your life could be any TV characters, go for it. A Liverpool 11 using British and foreign players head to head between me and Chris, and a whole host of other things as well. So yeah, go over there. Look, if you like what we do, if you like the fun, the more fun side of what we do, less of the analysis, then we've definitely got that covered. If you like the analysis side, we've got that covered as well on the redmentv.com. So sign up. It's completely free for the first month. So if you want more, just bored and you want to fill the rest of your week, and in fact the rest of your life, because we do a lot of stuff, go over there, start your 3-month trial, and it's just £5 a month thereafter. So Chris, thank you very much.
And you.
Thank you very much for watching and for listening. Walk on.